Tonight, I'm drifting through a silence so complete it almost feels alive. A silence that presses gently against the edges of my thoughts, as if the universe itself is holding its breath. And maybe it is, because somewhere out here, in the dark between the stars, I've begun to sense a presence, not a creature, not a sound, but a pull, a soft, steady tug beneath reality, like an invisible tide rolling through the fabric of space. At first, I thought it was only my imagination. When you're floating through the void for long enough, your mind starts inventing patterns, echoes, shapes that aren't really there. But this wasn't imagined. This pull was real, and it was everywhere. I remember the moment I finally stopped resisting it. I let my body relax, let the engines dim until they were barely a whisper. And in that stillness, I felt it more clearly than ever before. A presence older than stars, patient as stone, gentle yet impossibly strong. A presence that has shaped every orbit, every falling leaf, every drifting world since the beginning of time. Gravity. The word itself feels too small, too thin to hold something so ancient, too simple to describe the quiet power that reaches across billions of light years, threading galaxies together like beads on invisible strings. But this journey isn't about definitions. It's about stepping into the heart of that pull, into the hidden architecture beneath motion, beneath matter, beneath existence itself. As I drift, my ship glides into the faint glow of a distant star. The light touches the hull with the warmth of a memory. And for a moment, I think about home, the way gravity wrapped around me every day without asking for thanks, the way it held oceans to the earth, held the air to my skin, held my feet to the ground as if whispering, "Stay, you belong here." Back then, I never questioned it. It was just a fact of life, a quiet companion I never truly saw. But out here, far from the familiar, I can feel its presence in a way I never could on Earth. Not as a weight, not as a force, but as a curvature. Space itself bending around stars, around planets, around me. Every direction I look, I can see faint distortions in the starlight, tiny arcs where light's straight path gently bows. It is beautiful and unsettling and strangely intimate. Because the truth is, gravity isn't just something that happens to the universe. It is the shape of the universe. Drifting through the dark, I'm struck by how delicate it all is. A star's light bends just slightly, barely a breath of deflection, and yet that tiny bending is enough to reveal the invisible. It's enough to guide my path, enough to tell me that somewhere ahead lies a deeper mystery, something massive enough to warp the night, like a sheet of glass warmed by fire. And as I follow the curvature, the pull grows stronger, not violent, not dangerous, just insistent, like a story that has waited too long to be told. Tonight, I'm going to follow it, not because I understand it, but because gravity is the thread that connects everything, and I can feel that thread tightening, drawing me toward a revelation older than the universe itself. So I take a slow breath, steady my pulse, and let the darkness close around me like a warm cloak. The pull grows stronger as I drift forward, and I start to realize something strange. It's not dragging me anywhere, it's inviting me. Gravity has never been a force that shouts. It doesn't tear or claw or demand attention. It whispers. It leans close. It reshapes the silence around you until you find yourself moving without remembering when you began. Out here, where starlight has traveled longer than life has existed, that whisper becomes unmistakable. I angle the ship towards a region of space where the stars seem just a little out of place. Not wrong, just subtly shifted, as if someone touched the sky with wet fingers and smudged it. The distortions in the light form gentle arcs, graceful and patient, almost like waves frozen in an eternal ocean. This is where the fabric begins to curve more deeply. I never truly understood what space bending meant until now. On Earth, it's just a phrase you memorize in school, something Einstein once wrote in elegant equations no ordinary person could decode. But here, drifting inches from nothing and light years from everything, the math becomes a feeling, a sensation, an almost physical awareness that the emptiness around me isn't empty at all. It's a living surface, stretched and folded by every mass that drifts through it. Even my ship, tiny against the backdrop of galaxies, leaves a faint ripple behind. I wonder how many such ripples I've unknowingly created in my lifetime. A soft alarm pings. Nothing dangerous, just a notification. A nearby star, dim and aging, is tugging on my trajectory ever so slightly. The ship adjusts, compensating in a way that feels almost respectful, as if acknowledging a quiet elder whose gravity still commands authority even in its fading years. From here, I can see the star's light curve delicately around its own mass, the path bending like a thread pulled taut. This is lensing, the universe's way of revealing what the eye alone can't see. Light obeys the curve. Matter obeys the curve. And now I'm following it too. I glide closer, letting the gravitational gradient wash through me. It's a faint sensation, like leaning back in a chair and feeling just a little too close to falling. A gentle unease that keeps the heart awake. I've learned to appreciate that feeling. It reminds me I'm small, fragile, temporary. It reminds me the universe doesn't revolve around me, but it doesn't ignore me either. Every atom in my body feels connected to this pull, each one responding, trembling, aligning with the curve of space-time as though answering a note in a cosmic symphony I've only just begun to hear. And then, just as the sensation becomes familiar, something changes. Ahead, space ripples, not violently, but unmistakably, a subtle wave passing through the void, too soft to disturb the stars, but strong enough to stir the instruments on my ship. The panels flicker with readings I rarely see this far, from collapsing giants or colliding remnants. A gravitational wave. It moves through me like a memory, soft, fleeting, impossible to hold. The ship shudders with a sensation that feels almost emotional, as if the universe exhaled and we drifted through the breath. Somewhere, millions or billions of light years away, two enormous objects have collided, black holes or neutron stars, and their final embrace was powerful enough to send a tremor across the cosmos. And I felt it, not as danger, not as threat, but as a reminder that gravity isn't just the curve of space, it's the heartbeat of the universe. The wave fades, leaving me alone again with a gentle pull, drawing me deeper inward, deeper into the truth of what gravity really is. I've always thought of motion as something simple. You push, you move, you stop pushing, you slow down. But out here, drifting through the quiet dark, I feel how naive that was. Motion isn't simple. Motion is a negotiation. And gravity is the negotiator. As I follow the gentle curve deeper into this region of warped space, I begin to notice how everything here is in conversation with everything else. Stars tug at one another across impossible distances. Dust clouds twist into filaments under forces too faint to feel yet strong enough to shape worlds. Even the emptiness speaks, silent agreements between masses, defining how they'll dance across billions of years. I let the ship slow until I'm barely drifting, and the universe continues to move around me. A small cluster of asteroids, glowing faintly from reflected starlight, spirals in a slow, graceful arc. They're not colliding, not scattering, just circling one another, locked in a silent agreement. From a distance, it looks effortless, like a flock of birds turning in unison. But I know the truth. Each rock is following its own geodesic, its own path through curved space-time, and somehow those paths weave together into harmony. Gravity isn't forcing them, it's guiding them. I remember something my instructor once said: "The universe doesn't pull on you, it tells space how to curve. Then space tells you how to move." Back then, I memorized the words without feeling their weight. Now, drifting through the curved light of a dying star, the meaning lands with quiet force. Space isn't a stage, it's a participant. A faint shimmer catches my attention, light stretched into a thin halo around something unseen. I adjust my course. What appears at first like a distortion in the background glow slowly becomes something more defined. A dense object no bigger than a mountain, but unbelievably heavy. A white dwarf, the remnants of a star long since burned out. Its gravity is intense, not dangerous yet, but enough to bend the light around it like a soft lens. As I pass near it, the ship lists slightly, the instruments humming as they correct our path. It feels like skirting the edge of a whirlpool, gentle but insistent, reminding me that even the smallest dead star still speaks with a voice that echoes across the void. I watched the dwarf for a long moment. Around it, tiny grains of dust spiral inward, each one glowing faintly as tidal forces stretch and heat them. Their paths aren't random, they're stories, written in orbits, arcs, spirals. Gravity is the author. And suddenly, I feel something I didn't expect, a kind of sympathy. Because gravity isn't choosing to be powerful. It isn't choosing to bind stars or curve galaxies. It's simply telling space the truth of how much something weighs. And space reacts by folding itself into shapes that cradle motion. Even destruction, supernovas, collapses, mergers isn't driven by anger. It's just geometry obeying itself. My ship drifts past the dwarf and back into the deeper dark. The curve beneath me becomes steeper, more pronounced. Light from distant stars streaks ever so slightly, as if leaning toward a single point. Something massive lies ahead, something whose presence reshapes the night without ever speaking a word. I feel the pull long before I see its source, a slow tightening in my chest, not fear, but anticipation, as though I'm approaching the root of every orbit in the sky, every fall, every sunrise. I know what waits ahead. I've studied the physics. I've memorized the models, but nothing in the books prepared me for how it feels to be drawn toward an object so heavy that space itself bows in reverence. Gravity is no longer a background presence. It's becoming a landscape, a destination. The deeper I drift into this region of warped space, the more I begin to sense the change before I see it. It's subtle at first, like the faint shift of wind before a storm, a quiet warning that the rules are about to twist. Starlight stretches into thin arcs at the edges of my vision. Colors shift, blues fading toward white, reds deepening into something almost bruised. It's as if the night sky is being gently kneaded by invisible hands, and then it happens. Light stops traveling in straight lines. I know logically it always bends around mass, but here the bending becomes visible, almost tangible. It flows like water around a stone, swirling into ripples that shimmer across the hull of my ship. The darkness ahead feels thicker, as though I'm drifting through a place where even photons hesitate. I steady myself against the console, not because of turbulence, space is perfectly still, but because the sight is overwhelming. Gravity here doesn't just guide motion, it sculpts reality. A thin beam of starlight passes through the curved region and splits into delicate loops, stretching around an unseen center. It's a gravitational lens, something I've only ever seen in telescope images, magnified and processed. But here, in person, it's breathtaking. The beam arcs into a halo, a perfect ring of light encircling nothingness, an Einstein ring, one of the universe's most elegant illusions, light forced into a circle by the curvature of space itself. I drift closer, not too close. Every instinct warns me this is still only the edge of something far greater, but close enough to watch the halo shift as I move. It stretches, then tightens, then stretches again, reframing the background stars into shapes my mind struggles to interpret. And beneath all this beauty, something hums. Not sound. Sound can't travel out here. But a quiet vibration I can feel in the hull, as if space-time itself is trembling under the weight of something massive. The ship's readings confirm it. Ahead lies a gravitational well deeper than anything I've encountered. Not yet a singularity, not yet a black hole, but a region where matter has collapsed into a sphere so dense that light can barely escape its influence. A neutron star, the remnants of a massive sun crushed into a city-sized core. The numbers scrolling across my screen are almost impossible to comprehend. A mass greater than our sun compressed into a diameter small enough to walk across in an hour. And the pull reaches out long before the star itself becomes visible. My chest tightens again, not from danger, but from the sheer weight of understanding. This object curves space like a fist pressing into soft fabric. Every starlight arc I see, every ripple passing through the void, every distortion in the constellations is a story written by its gravity. This is where motion changes character, where speed is no longer a choice. It becomes a necessity. Stay still, and the star will draw you in. Move too fast, and you'll be slingshot into the dark. Everything here is choreography, precise, delicate, unforgiving. I let the ship drift into a stable distance, watching as the neutron star finally reveals itself. A faint, jittering point of light, pulsing with unimaginable intensity. Its rotation is so fast that beams of radiation sweep across space like silent lighthouses. Each pulse is the heartbeat of a star that should have died long ago. The pulses pass through the curved space like ripples of cold light, carving faint shadows across the dust clouds drifting nearby. Those clouds spiral inward in elegant loops, strands of matter caught in a dance they can't escape. I realize, watching them fall, gravity isn't always gentle. Sometimes it is beautiful in a way that aches, because everything that draws you close will also let you go or break you or change you. My ship crosses a threshold, not physical, but perceptual. The universe reveals scales of gravity I never imagined, and something deeper stirs ahead beyond even this intense stellar corpse. A greater curvature, a darker silence, deeper pull, The neutron star fades behind me, shrinking into a flickering pin of violent light. Its pulses echo in my instruments like a fading heartbeat, but the rhythm no longer belongs to this place. Something else is calling me now, something heavier, deeper, and infinitely more patient. The pull ahead is different from anything I've felt before. Gravity is everywhere in the universe, but here it has weight in the mind, not just in the body. It presses not downward, but inward, as though the space around me is folding, inviting me to follow its curve deeper into the unknown. I can feel my own thoughts narrowing, focusing, tightening in quiet anticipation. The ship vibrates, not from strain, but from the subtle shift in space-time, like drifting across the edge of a cold current in a deep ocean. This is no longer the gentle persuasion of a dying star. This is the gravity of something larger, something ancient, something that no longer resembles the star it once was. My sensors struggle to map the region ahead. Distances blur, angles refuse to stay straight. Telemetry loops through impossible values until the system gives up and simply displays gravitational field extreme. Proceed with caution. I almost laugh, quietly, nervously, because caution has long since become irrelevant. Whatever lies ahead already knows I'm here. The stars around me begin to distort dramatically, elongating into thin crescents of light. Some stretch into smeared arcs that circle around an unseen center like glowing brush strokes painted on darkness itself. It takes me a moment to understand what I'm seeing. My breath catches. It's not the stars that are bending. It's space. A gravitational well so deep that entire constellations curve toward it. Light orbits around it in loops that seem frozen in time. Photons that should have raced straight across the void are trapped here, circling endlessly in a silent halo. The ship's readings confirm the truth I already feel in my bones. A black hole, not enormous, not supermassive, but close enough to be deadly, and beautiful in a way that shakes something fundamental inside me. I approach slowly, carefully, keeping well outside the event horizon, but close enough to see the impossible. The accretion disk glows with feverish light, not warm, but sharp, as if the atoms themselves are screaming. Gas spirals inward faster than any object should be able to move, compressed and heated by tidal forces that tear apart anything foolish enough to wander too close. The disk is thin, shockingly thin. A blade of white gold fire wrapped around darkness so perfect, it seems like the universe forgot to paint this part of the sky. It's not simply black. It's the absence of everything. Even fear struggles to exist here. But the danger isn't the hunger of the black hole. It's the tidal field around it. My ship trembles as the gradient increases. Gravity here is no longer a uniform pull. It stretches space itself unevenly. It reaches through the hull and tries to lengthen my atoms in directions they were never meant to go. The inertial compensators strain, humming with a sound that feels like the edge of a panic attack. I grip the console, steadying myself against a force that isn't touching me at all, yet somehow presses with the weight of inevitability. This is gravity without mercy. Not cruel, just complete. I'm not close enough to be in danger of spaghettification, but I feel the beginnings of the stretch. A strange sensation like my thoughts are being pulled slightly out of sync with my body. It's unsettling, terrifying, exhilarating, because in this stretched moment, I understand something. Gravity is not the enemy here. Ignorance is. The black hole does not wish to consume me. It simply is, and the universe shapes itself around its presence. I take one last look at the dark center where the laws of physics fold in on themselves, then gently fire the engines to pull away. Not quickly, but with quiet respect. As I escape the gradient, the pressure eases, the stars regain their familiar shapes. The console readings settle into normal ranges, but something lingers, a sense of having touched the edge of reality and finding it thinner than expected. Ahead, I see something new, a faint arc of rippling light, delicate and trembling, not pulled down by gravity, but across it, a clue, a doorway, the next chapter of this journey. The trembling arc of light ahead isn't bright. In fact, it's barely visible, just a thin shimmer that wavers like heat rising from desert sand. But out here, in the cold vacuum where nothing should ripple or tremble, the sight hits me like a whispered warning. Something is bending time. I angle the ship toward the distortion, keeping my movement slow. Even at this distance from the black hole, I can still feel the aftertaste of its pull. A faint stretching sensation deep behind the ribs, as if my heartbeat is lagging a fraction of a second behind the rest of me. The shimmer intensifies, not brighter, just clearer, as though my mind is finally tuning itself to the frequency of what I'm seeing. Light curves, space folds, but this is different. This is a place where time itself tilts, where seconds stretch or snap tight, depending on the direction you move. A gravitational gradient steep enough to warp not just motion, but existence. I drift into the edge of it, and instantly, the ship's systems begin to lag, not malfunction, just delay. The readouts update a heartbeat too slow. The ticking of the onboard chronometer stutters, as if questioning its own rhythm. I'm still here, but the moment I'm in feels oddly soft, slippery, like a thought you can't quite hold. The hull groans, not from pressure, but from the underlying tension of space-time itself. If space can stretch, then time can stretch too. And now I am moving through a place where that stretch becomes visible. A faint trail of light streaks past the ship, and another, and another. Only, they aren't moving fast. It's me who is moving through a slowed down region. These streaks are actually ordinary particles of dust, their motion smeared across seconds that refuse to stay aligned. I feel a pressure against my mind, a tightness at the edge of perception. It's not fear, not exactly. It's the human brain warning that the rules it evolved to understand are bending into shapes it can't quite follow. I try speaking out loud, just to hear something familiar. Ship, run a temporal stability check. My voice sounds normal, but the response comes with a delay so long I wonder if the question reached the system at all. Temporal gradient detected. Stability with intolerance. Tolerance. That's a generous word for what I'm feeling. Even time seems unsure of itself here. As I push deeper, the distortion resolves into something beautiful. A shimmering curtain across the void. Not physical, not tangible, but unmistakably present. It reminds me of auroras on Earth, those quiet, trembling veils of color that drape across the polar skies. But this curtain isn't made of charged particles. It's woven from time dilation itself, a gravitational mirage. Beyond the curtain, I glimpse something strange, a star that flickers in and out of sync. It pulses at an impossible rhythm, fast, slow, fast again, as if I'm seeing different versions of it across a stretched-out timeline. My breath catches. I'm witnessing the star not as it is, but as it was, and as it will be, all at once. Gravity is doing this. Its curvature is deep enough here to peel time open just a little, exposing the layers beneath. The closer I look, the more the universe begins to resemble a living tapestry of stretched seconds and folded moments. And then a realization strikes me. Quiet, profound, terrifying. This is how gravity shapes fate, not by pulling objects together, but by deciding how fast their time flows. Two objects can exist side by side and age at different speeds simply because space-time curves differently beneath them. It's not motion that binds the universe. It's the rhythm of time itself, set by gravity, like a universal metronome. A sudden tremor shudders through the distortion. The shimmering curtain ripples, and a gravitational wave passes through. Subtle, delicate, yet powerful enough to momentarily snap time back into alignment. I feel the shift in my bones, my heartbeat and the chronometers ticking sync again, as though the universe has exhaled sharply. The wave fades, the curtain steadies, and ahead, beyond the trembling horizon, something darker waits. A region not merely bending time, but fracturing it. I drift at the edge of the temporal curtain, watching the last ripples fade into the dark. For a moment, the universe feels strangely still, as though everything is holding its breath, waiting for me to take the next step. Beyond this shimmering veil lies a region where gravity doesn't just bend time, it questions it. And somewhere inside me, a quiet question rises with it. Why does the universe curve at all? It's a simple question, the kind you might hear from a child staring out a window on a rainy day. But out here, face to face with distorted starlight and trembling time, the simplicity becomes sharp enough to cut. Space could have been flat. Time could have flowed the same everywhere. The cosmos could have been calm, unwarped, predictable, but it isn't. The universe chose curves, chose motion, chose gravity. I ease the ship forward, slipping through the curtain. The distortion brushes past me like a cold breath. The instruments flicker, not failing, just adjusting, as if the very idea of measured time needs a moment to understand itself here. Inside, everything feels softer, muted, as though the laws of physics have draped themselves in a heavy cloak. The stars ahead are dimmer, smeared slightly across directions that shouldn't exist. Their shapes tug at my thoughts, pulling them into arcs that echo the curves outside. I think about Earth, about the way gravity held me as a child before I even knew the word for it. The way I fell, not because of a force pressing down on me, but because space was curving beneath my feet and time was tipping forward in a direction I couldn't resist. Gravity wasn't a rule. It was an invitation, a path the universe laid out before me. Here, in this quiet dark, the meaning of that path settles over me like dust from distant stars. Gravity doesn't want anything. It doesn't choose or judge or plan. It simply reveals what is. Mass bends space-time. Curvature guides motion. The universe moves along the shape it creates. And we, fragile temporary creatures, spend our entire lives walking its curves without realizing we're following the contours of something ancient and intimate. A faint pulse drifts across my sensors. Not a gravitational wave this time. Something slower, heavier, a deep oscillation in space-time itself, almost like the echo of a heartbeat. I freeze, not out of fear, but because the rhythm feels familiar. The cosmos is breathing, not literally, but through motion, through collapse and expansion, through orbits and spirals, through the ceaseless fall of everything into everything else. Gravity is that breath, the inhalation that gathers mass, the exhalation that releases energy. It's the pulse beneath galaxies, the whisper beneath stars, the steady, low murmur beneath every step we've ever taken. A soft realization settles into place like a final puzzle piece. Gravity is the universe's memory. It is how the cosmos remembers mass, remembers motion, remembers every particle that has ever existed. The deeper the mass, the deeper the memory. The deeper the curve, the slower time becomes, as though heavy things hold on to their moments more tightly. I drift through the dim region, and the pulse grows stronger. Ahead, the darkness thickens, not empty, but full, heavy with significance, a place where space-time curves not just downward, but inward, curling around a mystery I feel rather than see. My breath catches as I realize where the pulse is coming from. Not a star, not a black hole, a boundary, a horizon of sorts. Not the edge of a singularity, but the beginning of something vast and interconnected. Gravity here isn't just shaping matter, it's shaping understanding. The pulse grows sharper as I move forward, no longer a gentle, cosmic heartbeat, but something more urgent, like the trembling air before lightning strikes. The space ahead looks wrong, not dangerous at first glance, but subtly off. The stars seem to lean inward, their shapes stretched toward a single region of darkness that isn't exactly dark. It's more like a bruise on the universe, a place where light hesitates, as if unsure of how to cross. My instruments begin to waver again. Readouts fluctuate by fractions, then by entire values. Distances refuse to stay consistent. Even the ship's internal echo, the faint hum you stop noticing after days in space, seems to skip and restart as though sound itself is confused. I whisper into the quiet cabin, "Where am I going?" Not because I expect an answer, but because the question steadies me in a place where nothing else seems willing to. Then the wave hits, not a gravitational wave. Those pass through like distant memories. But a distortion so sudden and violent, it feels like the ship is shoved sideways by a force that doesn't exist. Except it does, a tidal surge, a massive, irregular shift in the gravitational field. A fluctuation so intense that space-time itself shivers. I grip the console as the ship lurches. The stars outside twist into spirals, threads pulled tight and nearly snapping. For a breathless second, the universe seems to tilt, as though some enormous hand grabbed the cosmic fabric and yanked it in a direction no map has ever shown. And then, silence, stillness. The stars return to their places, but the afterimage of that distortion clings to my vision. I know what caused it. It wasn't a stable gravitational well. It wasn't the black hole behind me. This was different. A ripple from something massive moving suddenly, a rogue mass, something dense and compact traveling fast, a wandering object heavy enough to warp everything around it without warning, a gravity storm. They're rare, regions where compact stellar remnants drift through the void with just enough velocity and just enough proximity to tear at space-time in unpredictable patterns. Usually they fade long before anyone is close enough to notice. But I was here, too close enough to feel the fabric bend under its passing mass. I take a slow breath, letting the adrenaline settle into my bones. My hands still tremble. Out here, danger isn't loud. It's silent, sudden, indifferent. I check the ship's systems. Nothing's broken. but every motion feels slightly uncertain, as though even my own path is still recalibrating. Ahead, I see the wake of the passing object, a faint, shimmering streak through the stars. It looks almost delicate, like frost cracking across glass. But I know the truth. That wake is a wound in space-time slowly stitching itself closed. I follow it, not because I must, but because something about that surge felt intentional, not sentient, not guided, but significant, as though gravity is trying to show me its more violent side, the side that shapes galaxies, that collapses suns, that forges the bones of the cosmos with tidal forces strong enough to stretch reality to its breaking point. As I approach the wake, light distorts again, not violently this time, just enough to remind me that motion here is no longer smooth. The boundary I sensed before is clearer now, a gravitational scar, a region where motion becomes unpredictable, where trajectories bend on their own, where stability dissolves. This is the unexpected turn I felt coming. Gravity, until now a guide, now becomes a labyrinth, and I am stepping into it willingly. The scar in space-time widens as I cross its threshold, and suddenly, the universe doesn't feel infinite anymore. It feels crowded, not with stars or dust, but with pull, invisible hands reaching in every direction at once. For the first time on this journey, I feel small in a way that isn't comforting. Ahead lies a region where gravity doesn't belong to single objects anymore. It belongs to structures, vast, interwoven, ancient skeletons of matter, a galaxy cluster. I've seen images of clusters back home, those delicate webs of glowing galaxies suspended like lanterns in deep space. But nothing prepared me for what it feels like to drift into one. The gravity here is overwhelming, not crushing, but everywhere. A soft pressure on my thoughts, a constant reminder that the emptiness between galaxies isn't really empty at all. As I glide forward, I see the first giant, a massive elliptical galaxy, featureless, pale, swollen with the ghosts of 1,000 consumed stars. It hangs in the dark like a dying ember, its light diffuse and tired. Gravity has sculpted it over billions of years, sanding away its spirals until only a sphere of old starlight remains. Around it, smaller galaxies drift like insects caught in slow amber. Their paths aren't random. Each one is sliding along a curve carved by the cluster's collective weight. I feel those curves tug at my ship, not sharply, but insistently, like many hands pulling from different directions. Gravity here is no longer a simple slope. It's a landscape of valleys and peaks, a terrain shaped by dozens of massive bodies all distorting space together. My screens fill with warnings, tidal gradients shifting, inertial compensators adjusting faster than I can think. The ship feels alive, fighting to remain coherent in a region where space itself can't decide which way is straight. Still, I push deeper. A cluster like this is more than a gathering of galaxies. It is a node in the cosmic web, one of the great intersections where filaments of dark matter converge. And now I see them. Not directly. Dark matter is invisible, but its influence shapes everything. The galaxies here are bound by something I can't see, yet feel as a tightening around my chest. Gravity is strongest where dark matter is densest. And here, those hidden rivers pull on me from all sides. It's like drifting through an ocean whose currents are carved into the water itself. I watch as two galaxies in the distance move toward one another with a slowness that feels inevitable. There is no sound, no drama, just two titans falling inward across 100 million years. Even from here, I see their stars beginning to distort. Long tendrils stretch out, tidal tails forming as each galaxy pulls gently at the other's outskirts. They look like two hands reaching out, fingers brushing for the first time. The collision won't destroy them. Gravity rarely destroys. Instead, it merges, reshapes, rebuilds. A new galaxy will be born from their union, one whose shape will tell the story of this slow, majestic fall. I drift on, letting the cluster's gravity carry me. Farther ahead, I sense something else, a presence even heavier than the giants around me, a supermassive black hole, not at a galaxy's center, but wandering, a rogue core, the leftover heart of a galaxy long devoured by the cluster tides. The idea of such a thing is terrifying, and yet awe-inspiring. A black hole the size of a solar system drifting freely through intergalactic space. My instruments detect faint lensing arcs, the telltale sign of its invisible passage, a gentle curve in the light of background galaxies, beauty born from devastation. As I steer wide around the rogue core, I can feel the shape of its shadow in my bones. Space-time bends differently near it, tighter, sharper, like the edge of a blade. And that's when I understand something profound. Gravity is not merely a force, or even the curvature of space. It is structure. It is the architecture of the universe, written in the language of inevitability. The cluster stretches around me like a cathedral. Pillars of galaxies, arches of dark matter, domes of distorted light. Every motion here is a prayer to the mass that shapes it. And in the center of this cosmic temple, I sense a deeper stillness, a place where gravity gathers into a shape beyond anything I've yet encountered. The heart of the cluster pulls me inward like a slow, deliberate breath, not violent, not rushed, but heavy with meaning. Each kilometer forward feels like I'm entering the memory of something ancient, something that formed before light even learned how to shine. The rogue black hole drifts behind me now, its presence still lingering as a faint tremor in the back of my thoughts. Ahead, the gravitational field becomes smoother, not weaker, but more unified, as if dozens of competing tidal forces suddenly decide to move in the same direction. It should be comforting. It isn't. My ship begins to creak, a soft metallic groan, like an old house settling before a storm. Except the storm isn't outside. It's inside space-time itself. The inertial compensators engage again, this time with a strained hum that vibrates through the cabin floor. I feel the shift before the sensors register it. A subtle lengthening sensation that runs through my limbs, through my breath, through my thoughts. A tidal field, a strong one. Not the brief, sharp jolt of the gravity storm, but a persistent stretch. A deliberate pulling in two different directions at once. I grip the armrest, not out of pain, but because the sensation is so strange, my body needs something to anchor itself to. My hands look normal, but something deeper inside me feels elongated, as if my sense of time is being pulled slightly ahead of my sense of space. It's disorienting. Even thinking becomes slippery, as though thoughts themselves are stretching thin before snapping back into place. The readings confirm it. Tidal gradient, extreme space-time shear, active caution, temporal drift, detected temporal drift. A poetic phrase for something deeply unsettling. My personal time is beginning to run slightly differently from the ship's time. Not dangerously, not yet, but enough that I feel my breaths arrive out of rhythm with my heartbeat. Enough that The shape of the cabin seems to bend ever so gently in directions Euclid never imagined. I take a breath, slowly, deliberately, trying to steady the anxiety rising in my chest. This is gravity at its most intimate, no longer pulling on objects, but pulling on experience itself. I look out the viewport, and for the first time on this journey, I see something that truly frightens me: a gravitational filament, a strand of matter and dark matter so dense and extended that it acts like a cosmic tidal wire, stretching everything that ventures near it. It connects two massive galaxies like a bridge, a luminous tunnel of starlight and dust drawn thin across millions of light years. The filament pulses faintly with the motion of the cluster, every shift, every gravitational tremor rippling through it like waves in a taut rope. If the galaxies are pillars of this cosmic cathedral, the filament is the tension between them, a reminder that gravity is not merely attraction, but relationship. I realize suddenly, painfully, that I'm drifting directly over it. The stretching intensifies. The ship groans again, panels rattling as though the hull is being coaxed into a shape it wasn't designed to hold. My breath stutters. Time stutters with it. For a moment, I feel myself slipping into two directions at once, not physically, but perceptually. My thoughts lag and leap, caught between beats of a cosmic metronome, too massive for human senses. I force myself to focus, one breath, one thought, one moment at a time. Slowly, carefully, I steer away from the densest center of the filament. The stretching begins to ease. The cabin straightens. My heartbeat finds itself again. But something remains inside me, a faint, lingering elasticity, a reminder that I've glimpsed what happens when gravity stops being a guide and becomes a sculptor. As the ship stabilizes, I stare back at the filament, watching the galaxies it connects drift toward each other in agonizing slow motion. The universe shapes itself through tension, not conflict, but balance. And sometimes we must stretch to understand it. The ship settles into calmer space, though calmer is a relative term here. After drifting along the gravitational filament, even normal curvature feels like a gentle embrace. The tidal stretching inside me fades, leaving behind a strange clarity, as if the universe stretched a thought so thin that I could finally see through it. Gravity has always explained things through motion, but now it starts explaining itself. Ahead, the cluster opens into a wide clearing of space, an oasis of relative stillness surrounded by giants. Galaxies form a luminous ring around it, their soft halos blending together like lanterns encircling a quiet lake. This is a gravitational basin, a place where the pulls of countless masses cancel just enough to create a temporary calm. I drift into the center of it, and something remarkable happens. For the first time since this journey began, I feel weightless, not because of distance, but because of balance. Here, gravity is not pulling me anywhere. It's holding me, not in place, but in understanding. I take a slow breath, letting the stillness fill me. Out here, the universe often feels harsh. Collisions, collapse, tidal violence. But this moment reveals something softer. Gravity isn't chaos, it's continuity. It holds stars together long enough to shine. It shapes galaxies into spirals that last billions of years. It gathers dust and gas into worlds where life can wonder who made the sky. Even destruction, supernovas, mergers, the tearing tides, is just gravity clearing space for new forms. I look around the basin, watching how gently the galaxies drift. Nothing moves quickly here. Even the nearest giants take millions of years to cross a small patch of space. But their slowness is deceptive, because gravity is patient. It doesn't need force to be powerful, it needs time. And the universe has more time than any of us can imagine. A faint distortion passes across the basin. Not dangerous, just a soft ripple like wind across a still pond. It's the combined gravitational murmur of the surrounding galaxies, subtle and steady. I notice something else too, their shapes. When viewed alone, galaxies seem chaotic. Spirals here, ellipses there, some distorted by collisions, others quiet and serene. But from this vantage point, something unspoken aligns them. Each galaxy's structure is a history of its relationship with gravity. Spirals are shaped by rotation and gentle collapse, arms swept outward like the strokes of a slow cosmic dance. Ellipticals are the memory of ancient mergers, their stars orbiting in random directions like thoughts scattered across a dream. Dwarf galaxies cling to their larger partners, bound by invisible strands of dark matter, cosmic moths circling lanterns. All of them different, all of them connected. It hits me, suddenly and deeply. Gravity is not symmetry, it is story. Every orbit, every collapse, every tide is a narrative written in curvature. Stars don't just fall, they follow arcs shaped by everything around them. Planets don't just move, they weave paths influenced by the entire mass of their system. Even photons, the universe's fastest messengers, are slowed, bent, guided by the gentle insistence of mass. I feel the truth settle quietly inside me, like dust drifting onto the surface of a still lake. Gravity is how the universe remembers where everything belongs, not through rules or commands, but through relationships. The ship hums softly, its systems finally stable again, and in this calm, I sense something ahead, a deeper curve, a darker region of space-time where even the basin's balance begins to tremble. A place where gravity's story changes tone, where order gives way to something older, maybe even something unknowable. The calm at the center of the gravitational basin feels almost artificial, as if the universe is giving me one last moment to breathe before something deeper, something older begins to unfold. I linger there for a brief time, letting the silence settle into me. But even in that stillness, I can sense the presence of the next region. Gravity is gentle here, balanced, poised. Yet beneath that poise lies tension, a whisper of something massive waiting just beyond the edge of this tranquil space. I ease the ship forward, watching the galaxies around me shift in slow, deliberate arcs. The basin's stability begins to unravel molecule by molecule. The pulls no longer cancel out cleanly. My instruments register increasing curvature, a deepening slope in space-time itself. The quiet becomes heavier, not darker, heavier. Each breath feels as though it sinks more deeply into my chest. As I cross the boundary, the stars warp slightly, their positions bending as though painted on soft cloth, now being stretched over hidden shapes. The basin's calm slips behind me, replaced by a pressure that is neither dangerous nor safe. It simply is. A persistent, patient gravity that demands awareness. I straighten in my seat without meaning to. Something instinctive inside me, something ancient, knows that I am entering a region shaped not by individual masses, but by the collective weight of an entire cosmic structure. This is not the heart of the cluster. It is something beneath it. A gravitational sink, a region where matter is not yet fully collapsed, yet already on its way. It is the slow descent of galaxies toward a future point they cannot escape, even if that point is billions of years ahead. Space here seems to lean, not downward, not inward, but toward an invisible fate. My ship begins to tilt slightly, as if sliding across an unseen slope. I compensate gently, letting the controls respond more like a glider in shifting winds than a vessel fighting a force. The tilt deepens. The curvature becomes noticeable in the shapes of the stars themselves. They stretch into faint crescents, elongated by gravitational lensing, more intense than anything I've yet encountered. A dense cloud of intra-cluster gas drifts ahead, glowing faintly with the radiation of ancient collisions. It is beautiful, shimmering, like mist caught in starlight. Yet, its presence makes me uneasy. Gas doesn't collect in regions like this unless gravity is pulling it toward something enormous. The ship dips again. This time the tilt doesn't fade. The tidal forces are returning, not violently, but insistently. A gentle stretch through my limbs, a soft pressure in my skull. A reminder that time itself is beginning to slope. The chronometer flickers, then stabilizes, its pulses now slightly out of sync with my heartbeat. That old dissonance returns, breath and time arguing softly over whose rhythm I am meant to follow. For a moment, the stretch intensifies. The cabin elongates subtly in my peripheral vision, though I know it is not truly changing shape. It is my perception responding to space-time's uneven flow. I blink hard, forcing the world to reassemble. Ahead, through the mist of hot gas, something begins to reveal itself. Not an object, a region, a volume of space darker than its surroundings, but not with the perfect darkness of a black hole. This is a gravitational void, not empty, but evacuated. Matter has been swept out of it by something massive lying deeper still. It feels like standing on the threshold of a great cavern whose interior is too dark to see, yet whose shape you can feel pressing against your thoughts. The ship's sensors struggle. Distances inside the void fluctuate. Light moves strangely there, curving along paths that defy intuition. Time slows by fractions, then stabilizes, then slows again. This is the kind of region where galaxies come to rest, drifting at the edge of collapse, waiting for the gentle tug of time to carry them inward over aeons. I cross the boundary. The pressure thickens instantly, not crushing, just unrelenting. I can feel the mass surrounding this void like invisible architecture, as if the universe has carved a great bowl and placed me at its lip. The stars inside it appear scattered, but I recognize the pattern. These are galaxies falling inward in slow spirals, too stretched across time for the motion to be visible to human eyes. Their shapes echo the direction of the curve, each one elongated like a grain of sand sliding down the slope of a dune. A realization settles into me like a quiet, heavy truth. Gravity is not only the architect of motion, it is the architect of destiny. Everything here is moving toward a shared future, not by force, but by the simple geometry of space-time. This region is the universe practicing patience on a scale I can barely comprehend. The tilt beneath the ship becomes steady. My thoughts stretch slightly, then settle. In this void, even my mind feels the slope. Yet, in the center of the darkness, I sense something else. A presence deeper than the cluster, older than the galaxies, subtle as a held breath. The inner void deepens as I drift forward, its darkness expanding not outward, but inward, as if space itself is folding around a question too old for stars to answer. The galaxies behind me grow faint, their light stretched thin across the slope of space-time. Ahead, the darkness feels heavier than any mass I've encountered. Not hostile, not empty, but contemplative. A silence so absolute, it feels alive. I slow the ship to a near standstill, not because of danger, but because something in this place demands stillness. Motion feels inappropriate, almost disrespectful, like speaking loudly in a sacred hall carved before memory. Gravity here is subtle, yet relentless, not pulling me forward, drawing me inward. For a moment, I can't tell whether the pressure I feel comes from outside or from within my own chest. The boundary between my thoughts and the curvature around me begins to blur. It becomes strangely hard to know where I end and the universe begins. I have never experienced gravity as personally as I do here in this quiet sink where galaxies drift toward a future collapse too slow for any living witness. A faint shimmer appears at the edge of my vision. Not a star, not a lensing arc, but something softer. A memory perhaps, or the shape of a thought stretched along curved time. I blink, expecting it to vanish. It doesn't. Instead, it grows clearer. I see myself, or rather, a version of myself reflected in the viewport glass. Not in real time, but delayed by a fraction. The reflection moves slightly after I do, like a hesitant echo. Time is drifting again, slipping between layers. But in that thin slip, I glimpse something more than lag. I glimpse the path I have taken, the neutron star, the black hole, the tidal filament, the gravitational basin. Each encounter has left a curve inside me, as if my mind has been shaped by the same forces that sculpt stars. I didn't notice it until now, but every region altered something in the way I think, the way I breathe, the way I interpret the silence around me. Gravity has been teaching me gently, quietly, insistently, and now, here at the edge of absolute stillness, it offers me a moment to reflect, not on the cosmos, but on the part of me that has been quietly falling all this time. The ship drifts deeper. The void thickens, but not with darkness, with meaning. Galaxies appear at impossible distances, faint spirals stretched across invisible walls of curvature. Their shapes are distorted into soft crescents that look almost like smiles, or perhaps like scars. They seem to lean toward something unseen at the core of this region, something I cannot observe directly, but whose presence I feel as a quiet vibration beneath thought. I check the sensors. They display almost nothing. No mass concentrations, no radiation spikes, no objects dense enough to explain what I'm feeling. Yet the pull is unmistakable, not in force, but in implication. Gravity isn't pointing me toward a thing, it's pointing me toward an understanding. The realization comes slowly, unfolding like a galaxy arm traced backward to its origin. Every curve in space-time reflects a curve within us, not literally, not physically, but emotionally, cognitively, philosophically. We move through the universe believing gravity shapes only matter, yet it shapes meaning as well. The awe we feel at the sight of a galaxy spiral, the fear at the edge of a black hole, the silent humility brought on by the size of everything around us. These are not separate from physics. They are human responses to cosmic geometry. Out here, drifting inside this vast sink, I feel those emotional orbits aligning, my fear of the unknown, my wonder at the intangible, my quiet, persistent search for purpose. Each one is a curve, each one shaped by gravity's patient hand. I close my eyes for a moment. The ship hums softly, almost soothing. In the darkness behind my eyelids, I feel my thoughts fall into long arcs, tracing paths I didn't know they'd been following. I realize how much of my life, on Earth, in training, in this voyage, has been guided by the same invisible pull. Gravity may shape stars and galaxies, but the desire to understand it shapes us. And here, in this gently collapsing region of space-time, I feel closer to that desire than ever before. When I open my eyes, something has changed in the void. The darkness ahead reveals a faint glow, not bright, not steady, but flickering like a distant flame obscured by deep water. It pulses slowly, almost rhythmically, and with each pulse, the curvature around me shifts in subtle waves, as if responding to something ancient stirring at the center. It is not an object, it is a phenomenon, a region where space-time begins to turn inward on itself, where the gravitational future of the cluster converges, not a singularity, not yet, but the embryonic shape of collapse on a cosmic scale, the beginning of a destiny billions of years away. My breath catches. I'm not witnessing the present, I'm witnessing a trajectory, and in that trajectory, I see myself mirrored, not in fate, but in motion. I have been falling toward understanding the same way galaxies fall into nodes of dark matter, slowly, invisibly, inevitably. The glow pulses again, the curvature deepens, and I feel a quiet acceptance settle inside me. I am ready for what comes next. The faint glow at the center of the void pulses again, slow, deep, deliberate. With each pulse, space-time around me shivers and ripples, too subtle to see, yet too profound not to feel. It reminds me of the way a deep lake trembles when something stirs far beneath its surface. Not violently, not urgently, just undeniably. I guide the ship closer, not because it feels safe. Nothing about this place suggests safety, but because something inside me recognizes the importance of moving forward. This glow, this trembling heart of the void, feels like the destination gravity has been leading me toward since the moment I left familiar stars behind. As I descend into the deeper curve, the distortion around me changes character. The gravitational pull no longer feels like motion. It feels like invitation. Space itself seems to beckon inward, folding gently but insistently, creating a downward slope in thought as much as in trajectory. The glow brightens as I approach, though it never becomes truly luminous. It is more like the hint of light behind thick clouds, implied, not shown. It flickers, and with every flicker, the ship's internal clock stutters. Seconds lengthen, then shorten, then lengthen again, as though time is breathing out of rhythm. I check the readouts. They're barely coherent now. Numbers drift like leaves on a slow current, impossible to trust. But the sensation in my body is unmistakable. I'm falling into a deeper portion of curvature, a region where gravity stops being something that acts on objects and becomes something that acts on perspective. The glow expands as I draw closer, not outward, inward. It is collapsing into itself, constantly and gently, like a thought folding into deeper understanding. In that motion, I feel a strange kinship. I too have been collapsing inward on this journey, shedding assumptions, letting revelation gather mass. And as this phenomenon grows clearer, I feel something shift inside me, a recognition. This isn't a star, it's not a black hole, it isn't matter at all. It's the gravitational center of the cluster's future, the point toward which millions of galaxies will one day fall, the embryonic cradle of a supermassive collapse that lies billions of years ahead. I am witnessing not an object, but a destiny. Space-time beginning to curl into a future it has already chosen. A pre-singularity, a knot in the cosmic web where everything is slowly converging. The realization makes my breath catch, not in fear, but in awe. The glow pulses again, slower this time, as if acknowledging my presence, or simply continuing a rhythm that existed long before any mind could interpret it. The ship shudders gently, not from danger, but from the increasing gradient. I feel the tidal pull inside my bones again, but softer here, more like a reminder than a warning. Time drifts in waves. A few seconds pass in an instant. Others stretch thin enough to feel the edges between moments. It becomes difficult to tell which thoughts are happening now and which belong to a slightly earlier version of me. Yet, the sensation is not frightening. It is strangely peaceful, like standing in a great cathedral where sound arrives just a little after the prayer, and then gravity speaks, not in words, but in the shape the universe takes around me. The glow dims, then brightens, and in that slow pulse, I understand what this journey has been leading toward. Gravity is the universe's way of teaching connection. Everything curves toward everything else. Stars curve toward galaxies. Galaxies curve toward clusters. Clusters toward superclusters. Light itself curves toward the mass it cannot resist. Even time bends its pace for gravity, and beneath all that physical behavior lies something deeper. A truth written not in equations, but in relationships. Nothing in the universe is separate. Every orbit is a conversation. Every fall is a path shaped partly by the object falling and partly by everything around it. Every curvature is a result of mass, but mass is born from ancient stars, which were born from older collapses, which were born from the primordial curvature at the universe's beginning. Gravity binds everything, not through force, but through memory. The memory of mass, the memory of motion, the memory of relationship. As I drift closer to the glowing core of the future collapse, this understanding settles into me with overwhelming clarity. The glow pulses again, and for the first time I feel it inside me as much as around me. It isn't communicating, it's resonating. Gravity doesn't tell objects what to do. It reminds them who they are in relation to everything else. The sensation rises in my chest, warm and startling. Suddenly, I'm thinking not of stars or clusters, but of every moment in my life shaped by invisible pulls. The things that held me, the things I orbited, the choices that curved my trajectory without my realizing it. We all live our lives following gentle slopes we don't always recognize, drawn toward people, ideas, dreams, and fears that shape the paths we walk. Our internal gravity, our emotional curvature, our private space-time. And in this moment, inside this cosmic basin where the future is quietly forming, I understand gravity is not just a physical truth. It is the deepest metaphor the universe offers. It is the reminder that existence is shared, that nothing drifts alone, that every path is shaped by the presence of others, even those we never meet, even those long gone. The glow flickers again, then grows calm, as if the universe has said what it needed to say. My ship drifts at the boundary of the deepest curve I can safely reach. Beyond this lies collapse, not for me, not now, but for the cosmos in ages yet to come. And I feel ready. Leaving the deep curve feels less like steering a ship and more like rising from a long dream. Glow of the future collapse fades behind me, shrinking into a soft pulse swallowed by distance. Yet, for a long while, I can still feel it, a rhythm lingering in my thoughts, like the echo of a heartbeat after you've pressed your ear to someone's chest. It is not loud. It is not insistent. It is simply there, a quiet reminder that the universe has depths I have only begun to understand. The surrounding void lightens as I ascend its slope. Galaxies reappear one by one, delicate spirals emerging from the darkness like lanterns rekindled after a long night. Their shapes, once distorted by the vast curvature, return slowly to silhouettes I recognize. But even in recognition, something in me has changed. I no longer see galaxies as distant islands of light. I see them as participants in an endless conversation, arcs of storylines woven into the fabric we call space-time. As I rise farther, I feel the tidal pressure ease, the sensation of stretching, of my thoughts sliding slightly past themselves, dissolves into a gentle equilibrium. One breath follows another with familiar timing. 1 second returns to its singular duration. Yet, I notice how differently each second feels now. Not heavier, not lighter, just more honest. Time feels less like a uniform river and more like a living terrain shaped by every mass, every curve, every moment of falling and rising. The ship hums softly as systems stabilize. For the first time since entering the cluster's depths, every panel reads clearly. My instruments no longer struggle with gradients or frozen clocks. Even the stars outside hold steady, no longer bending into crescents or shimmering in elongated arcs. I am drifting into a region where gravity becomes gentle again, the familiar slope of cosmic space, subtle yet omnipresent. But I am not the same observer who entered this journey. Passing the outskirts of the gravitational basin, I look back one final time. The void lies there like an ancient well, still and deep, holding the slow destiny of galaxies within its unseen embrace. I know that long after I am gone, long after humanity's voice has faded, that region will continue collapsing with patient inevitability. And in billions of years, something new will form where now only a quiet glow resides. I feel no fear in that thought, only wonder. Gravity is not destruction. It is transformation stretched across time. As I exit the cluster, the vastness of intergalactic space opens before me. The emptiness feels different now. Not cold, not lonely, but expansive, like taking a long breath after being underwater too long. The stars ahead shine clean and bright, unwarped by extreme curvature. Their light travels in straight lines here, unbent, confident in its path. I realize how rare such straightness truly is in a universe made almost entirely of curves. The more space I traverse, the more my reflections widen. It becomes clear that this journey was never truly about gravity itself, was about everything gravity revealed along the way. The black hole taught me that even the universe has boundaries of knowledge, horizons, where understanding begins to fold in on itself. The neutron star showed me how much mass can be held in how little space, and how intensity can exist quietly. The tidal filament stretched not just my perception, but my acceptance of how fragile structure can become under relentless forces. And the gravitational basin taught me stillness, the rare kind born from balance, not absence. But the deepest curve, the pre-collapse glow, revealed something altogether different. That gravity isn't just a rule the universe follows. It is a message the universe repeats through every scale of existence. You are connected. You have always been connected. Nothing falls alone. I watch a distant cluster shimmer on the horizon of perception, its light traveling millions of years to reach my eyes. And for a moment, I feel as though I can trace every curve between that cluster and myself. Not physically, not mathematically, but emotionally. The way you can sometimes feel the shape of a path even before you walk it. Gravity is the shape of every journey, cosmic or personal. We fall into understandings. We orbit old memories. We escape certain tides only to be caught by gentler ones. We circle people, ideas, hopes, fears, and sometimes without realizing it, we drift into regions where time stretches and thought bends, and we emerge changed, carrying a new curve inside us. The ship glides forward into open space. Ahead lies the familiar darkness between galaxies, a place so vast it could swallow every story ever told. Yet I no longer see it as empty. I see the invisible filaments threading one island of light to another, the subtle pull between structures, the quiet relationships written into the very geometry of existence. Gravity has shown me that the universe is not held together by force. It is held together by relationship, by the simple, profound truth that mass acknowledges mass, that space-time reshapes itself to honor the presence of something else. As I let that truth settle into me, a warmth spreads behind my ribs, not comfort, not triumph, something gentler than both, a cosmic afterglow, the kind that lingers long after the star has set, the kind that fills the silence not with answers but with gratitude for having glimpsed something vast. I take one last look back at the path I traveled, the curves, the distortions, the depths, and I whisper into the quiet cabin, "Thank you." Then the engines brighten, the darkness opens, and I rise into the endless curved night, carrying the gravity of everything I've seen and the quiet understanding of how deeply it shapes every falling moment of existence.